Recording started.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at our second session of our Summer Sustainability Series. And today we will be talking about food waste recycling. So that presentation will be beginning shortly. As a reminder, the session will be recorded and you will all be muted. And just be aware that there is a Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Please ask your questions here as they arise, and we'll address them at various points in the session. All right, so we do have a few more sessions coming up in this series. July 15th, same time, Protecting Our Waterways starts with our storm drains. August 5th, SB 1383, How Will the New Organic Waste Law Affect Chula Vista? August 19th at 12 p.m., Energy Benchmarking. And on September 2nd at 4 p.m., Recycling 101, Are You Wish Cycling or Really Recycling? September 16th at 4 p.m., we have a Chula Vista's Zero Waste Plan. So we'll be discussing that at that one. And then just as a reminder, at our website, www.chulavistaca.gov/clean, we have all of our recorded webinars that we've done in the past. So go ahead and check those out when you get a chance. And there's a lot of great information on there. All right. And as a reminder, all attendees will be muted for this presentation, but like I said, please type your questions in the question box and we'll address them as the presentation goes on. And to that, we have our session. I'm really excited for it, food waste recycling. It's a really great topic, something that I've been working on personally. And I'm very excited because our speaker today is a really good one. So today we have Risa Barron. She's an award-winning professional with more than 25 years of experience and success in public affairs, community relations, and communications with a focus on solid waste, energy, water, and transportation industry. Her expertise is in community outreach, strategic planning, and project management, and she excels in forging partnerships and building productive relationships. She joined Republic Services team in March of 2021, just this year, as municipal manager, working closely with the city of Chula Vista and cities throughout San Diego County to provide waste and recycling services. In this role, she leads outreach and education efforts to inform communities and engages with elected officials and stakeholders on policy impacting solid waste, recycling, and food and yard waste. Her prior experience includes work at the San Diego County Water Authority, SDG&E, and Caltrans, connecting with local municipalities, state and federal government agencies, school districts, nonprofits, business community on environmental programs and outreach. And Barron holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science and Public Administration from San Diego State University and has been an instructor at UC San Diego Extension Sustainability Certificate Program, for many years. And she is the past president of I Love a Clean San Diego and the president-elect of SDSU Alumni Association. Risa?
Thank you, Victor, and thank you all for the opportunity to present today. Right. My name is Risa Barron, and it's truly a pleasure to be here. As Victor was giving my bio, it kind of made me do some reflecting on my long career in working on environmental programs and services. And I was just sharing with the group earlier how excited I was to join the solid waste and recycling industry. I've had a lot of work in the environmental education arena, and I always feel that recycling is probably the first entryway into really living an environmental lifestyle. And I'm so excited that we're finally to the point where food waste recycling is going to become a reality, and it's going to become easy, and it's going to be something that we can all do. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of walk you through the journey of the program and talk to you about composting and some of the work that Republic Services is going to be doing here in Chula Vista. So with that, I'm going to get started. Can we go to the next slide, please? So why focus on organics? I mean, food waste. For those that don't know, it actually creates a tremendous amount of greenhouse gases. And as we all know, climate change is here, climate change is real, and we're to a point where we're all going to have to do many changes in our lifestyle to really create a mitigation on what's going on with the climate. And so obviously organics, as you can see in the chart, make up a good chunk of our waste. It's about 40% of our waste stream, and food is about 14%. Yard trimming is about 13%, and then you have paper, which is about 27%. And so think about all the things at your house and think at your business that now can actually go into a pile where it can it can be made into compost. We throw away more than 6 million tons of food waste every single year, and right now it's going into the landfill. And we're going to have this opportunity to recycle it and create it into composting. So very exciting. What's about to take place here for actually the state of California. Next slide, please. So let's get a little bit into the California legislative history, and I'm not going to go into this into great detail, but I just want you to know, and the purpose of this slide was to kind of give you a snapshot. California is really serious about this stuff. We have been working from a legislative perspective since 1989. That's a long time, and AB 939 was diversion goals that were set up to really try to start getting us to properly divert our waste. Since then, there's been a number of legislative bills passed, and obviously with the most recent one being SB 1383, which is going to set organic disposal targets for cities. And so what I'm going to get into more detail about is SB 1383 and really what's going to be happening here in Chula Vista. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the responsibilities from the city perspective. As the hauler, Republic does have responsibilities, obviously, to work with the city, make sure that we're in compliance from as your city hauler and recycler. And so we're going to be doing a number of initiatives starting in the fall to really start that education and outreach so people really do know what needs to be done and how they can participate. But it really first starts with providing organic collection service to all residents and businesses. So all residents and businesses in Chula Vista are going to have the ability to properly recycle their food waste. And we'll be rolling out that plan in the fall. People will be getting bins, carts, or you just be able to use your existing bin at your home if you already have a yard waste bin, and we'll get into more detail that later. Secondly, and I know the city's been very active in this area, is establishing edible food recovery programs. And so there'll be more efforts underway in terms of educating restaurants and places that have food that can be properly recovered and used and shared with a food bank or shared with a nonprofit that gets food out to people that are in need. There'll be a tremendous amount of education and outreach going on so people know what to do, how it works, and try and make this as simple as possible. So you'll be seeing a lot of communication coming out from the city later this year. And then other pieces of the responsibilities is procuring recyclable and recover organic products. So there'll be compost and mulch that are going to be created here at the Otay landfill that will be available. And that piece of it is really exciting because if you think about it, that tomato that you bought at the store could end up being in that composter, made into compost here in Chula Vista and used in your garden. So it's been closing that loop, that whole system, which I feel is really important for us to move forward with our environmental goals. We're also going to be securing access to recycling and edible food recovery. And then there's always a monitoring, compliance, and enforcement component. In the beginning, there won't be fines for folks or businesses that are not in compliance, but in about 2 years, I believe in 2024, there will be an enforcement piece that will be kicked in by California Recycle. Let's go to the next slide, please. So let's talk more about as an individual. What can you do to properly recycle organic food, and why should you be doing this? You know, let my neighbor do it. It's not my problem. Well, guess what, guys? There's a lot of stuff, a lot of waste here in our society here in the United States. And here are just some points that I came across that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to share with you. About 6.1 pounds of organic food waste is generated per person every single day. 6 pounds of food that is just getting thrown away because whatever, for various reasons. Think about that waste when you collectively Think about all the people that live in Chula Vista, all the people that live in San Diego, all the people that live in California, and then you go to the United States. That's a lot of food. And so there's probably, we know there's alternatives and better places for that food to go. And so having this program in place is going to make a really big difference. 40% of food grown, processed, and transported in the US will go to waste. So we're producing all this food with little less than half of it going into not even being, it will go into waste. So think about that. That's a fairly significant number. Another key point, in the San Diego County, nearly 1 million people couldn't put food on their table in 2020, according to the food bank, the San Diego Food Bank. Think about that. We all know people during COVID that really, really struggled and did not have access to food for various reasons. And we're having all of this waste. So now we need to start thinking, what can I do? Are there things that I can donate? Or are there things that I can properly dispose of so it doesn't get wasted and get thrown into the landfill? Because we only have so much space, and I think we have to get to that point where we really need to make that behavior change and start properly recycling our food. This is something just to think about. Food is often safe to eat even if it's expired. Expiration dates are really misleading. I'm not here to tell you to eat expired food, but I think my point is that if food is close to expiration, you're going to be fine. But I know there's lots of people that still toss it because they think that it's still not going to be good. So just be mindful of expiration. See if things are really properly, if they're still safe to eat. And certainly, I think that's a growing concern and issue. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I'm just going to get into the very high level about the waste collection services that are going to be provided here in Chula Vista. Basically, for a residential person, anyone who's living in a single family home, there'll be two options. One, if you already have an existing bin that you're using for your yard waste, you can put your food waste in that bin right away. And then once a week, Republic will come and pick up your food waste and yard waste, and it can be commingled. For folks that don't have a bin, we will be providing bins. And so those bins will be rolled out later this year, and then you can start properly recycling your food once you get your bin. We'll have a lot more details about the rollout later in the coming months, but we're still finalizing the details as we speak. From a commercial side, same thing. Depending on your type of use, what kind of business you have, certainly restaurants are going to be using bigger bins and carts than maybe an accountant's office may use. But my point is there will be another bin available for people to properly dispose of their food waste. And then from a food recovery perspective, we will be working with those restaurants, hotels, food places that serve large quantities of food about how we can properly do food recovery moving forward. Next slide, please. So this is something I always like to talk about because I think it's important to put some things into perspective. EPA put this out as a food recovery hierarchy, and it really kind of tells you kind of what's most preferred versus least preferred. And obviously the least preferred is sending everything to the landfill. Obviously, we really want to get to the part where we're donating extra food to food banks, or we're just actually just reducing the volume of food that we purchase and buy, and you know, being mindful of really how much food do I really need versus how much food am I really that I'm purchasing on a weekly basis, and finding just alternative ways to use that unused food so it doesn't end up in the landfill. So just think about this hierarchy and think of things that you can do immediately in terms of reducing your food waste. And next slide, please. And this is something I just think is awesome. And I just learned about it. It's called gleaming. And there are these gleaming groups out there. And these groups actually will take waste from food, from trees and farmers markets, and stuff that's not gonna, you know, how do I say this? It's not the pretty stuff, but it's stuff that's still very edible and certainly can be donated to local food pantries. And so there's a huge effort going on here in San Diego to really try to save those not so pretty fruits and vegetables, but certainly give it another life, and hopefully people can still enjoy it and eat it, and give people access to food and vegetables that maybe normally wouldn't have access. So There is a whole gleaming effort going on here in San Diego. There are two groups that I'm aware of in Chula Vista and South Bay communities. One is called Harvest Crops. They're based in Lemon Grove, and the second one is called Senior Gleamers. And basically, when there's folks that have fruit trees in their backyard and they have hundreds and hundreds of apricots, they don't know what to do. These folks will come and take those apricots and get them to other folks. So I love the fact that it's really local and it's really customized for the communities. And I think stuff like this is going to be evolving more and more as we start doing some more education and outreach on how people can connect into food recovery. So just something to think about. And certainly I recommend going to their website to get more information. Next slide, please. So I'm going to now switch gears and move into a little bit more about composting and some of the benefits of composting and what Republic Services is going to be doing shortly. Obviously, some of the key benefits of composting, it's definitely just going to reduce greenhouse gases. Landfills do create greenhouse gases. Obviously, the more composting we can do, we can really reduce our GHG, and that's something that's going to be happening all over California, and it's actually happening in other parts of the country as well. Organics converted into compost. Obviously, that's what we just talked about. Minimizing landfill waste and doing that through organic waste recycling. And then sustainable communities where composting can reduce the household waste that goes into landfills to benefit the environment. So lots of benefits in composting. You can certainly do it right now. You don't have to wait for these programs from the city to be kicked into gear. So if you wanted to do a worm composter, or if you want to do another the soil composter, there's lots of different ways of doing it. I recommend it if it works for you. I know I've had worms for a long time at my house. They're great. The worm tea has been awesome, but it's not for everyone. And the fact that now the city is going to be providing this service, I think is going to make a really big difference in terms of really increasing the amount of people, folks that are participating in these programs. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a little bit of the breakdown of the actual process, the composting process, and what's going to happen very soon. We're going to talk about collection, transportation, the composting process, the circular economy of what happens with this program, and then the organic waste solutions and what's going to be happening from a technology perspective. Let's go to the next slide, please. So we're going to start with collection. And from a collection perspective, yard and food waste are going to be collected from residents, businesses, and restaurants and other businesses. So basically anyone who has food waste, we're going to be able to collect it. I'm really excited to share with you that Chula Vista residents are going to receive a food waste pail. There's a picture of that right there, and we're going to come up with a way for you to pick those up, and be able to make it super easy. I was talking to some friends up in San Marcos who their city's already started their food waste program, and she says it's great. At night they're cooking, they're making their dinner, they put all their food waste into the pail, and then somebody goes out every night and puts it into the big pail outside, and it's just become their habit, their way they do things on a regular basis. So this is something, like I said, is going to be available to all residents in Chula Vista. And we'll be rolling those out as people start getting their big bins soon. Next slide. From a transportation perspective, it'll be our trucks that are normally picking up the trash and the recyclables. They'll also pick up your food waste, and that'll be done on a weekly basis. So I think that's going to be really exciting. You won't have to worry about smellage and having food kind of commingling around your house for a couple weeks at a time. It will definitely be done on a weekly basis. One little trick that I heard from some folks up in San Marcos, they shared with me, is that they recommend wrapping their food waste in paper. Helps kind of protect it, and certainly helps with the smellage. So something to think about. And I know people are going to come up with some great ideas, and I really hope you guys post it on social media, because I think that'll be fun for us to share our experiences and how things are working as we recycle our food. Next slide, please. So this is the exciting piece. We're doing this literally as we speak at the Otay landfill. It is under construction. We had a pilot program for the last few months where we have been testing the equipment for the composting facility here in Chula Vista. And now we're building our full-fledged facility. So basically, By the end of this month, end of July, we're anticipating that it'll be up and running. And we are planning that we will have compost available come Labor Day. That's our plan. So hopefully things go as planned. But you can see in the picture, it can't really see too much, but you can see one thing I'm proud of this project, it has solar panels, and we're actually going to be powering the project through solar panels to help with the composting facility that's off to the right. You can see the beds off in the green. Next slide. And then if you think about it, so once this compost is all made, it's really kind of closing that loop that I talked about earlier. Compost is going to be marketed and sold to landscapers and golf courses and farmers and residential customers. I know the city is going to be having compost coming to them as well. So I guess my point is that tomato that you bought at the store or got at the farmer's market or actually grew in your backyard can eventually become compost right back in your garden. And I think for me personally, that's super exciting. And the fact that this is happening sooner than later is really encouraging. And I think really a great form of leadership from the city and Republic working together to make this happen. Next slide, please. So from a technology perspective, it's probably a little hard to read this slide, but it's really, I showed it for the purpose of the picture. We call that the Thor, and we love saying Thor at the office because it's just kind of a fun title name for the piece of equipment. But basically what this piece of equipment does, and we'll have this up at the Otay landfill later this year, it's really for more commercial food processing. It actually takes the contamination out of the food waste to ensure that it can properly be composed. And so we have this facility right now in our Anaheim, up in Anaheim and other parts of the state, but this Thor is really going to help us do a lot more food processing in the future. And this, my understanding, it should be built in the fall timeframe. So this is really, like I said, more for commercial businesses to ensure we don't have contamination. And contamination is actually a really big deal, and it's able to separate out the contamination from the food waste. So very, very exciting. But Republic, really proud to say that my employer, my company I work for, really has taken a leadership role in food waste recycling, and we were Organics Recycler of the Year this past year, and we have done a tremendous amount of investment in California, in San Diego, and other parts of the country. But we're really looking at this as a way, as part of being part of the solution and coming up using technology on how we can really improve the situation. Next slide, please. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about recycling, and I'm just going to take a couple of slides to kind of once again stress to everyone how important it is to recycle. And I know everyone does recycle and everyone wants to do the right thing. And so I just want to really stress that obviously we know the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and we've been talking about those for years, but obviously finding ways to really just minimize how much stuff we use and going from the plastic bottle to the reusable bottle, or using the reusable tote, and finding ways to turn items into new products from recycling. So these are just, I know you know it, but I'm just reiterating this again. Next slide. But this is the slide that really matters, and this is where I know joining Republic, I had a couple of aha moments in terms of what really can go in the bin and what really can't go into the bin. And so the one thing which I have learned recently is contamination is a really big issue in the recycling industry. So I really can't stress it enough, is to make sure that you wipe out your recyclables, that there's no liquid or garbage left in there, and that it's dry. If they're dry, it's clean, and clean recyclables really will actually probably get recycled versus going into the landfill. So contamination is on the rise because the processes have changed tremendously, but flattening your cardboard, putting your paper, metal cans, plastic bottles and jugs and glasses is really what can go properly into the recycling bin. I think there's going to be a session later on in this series about wish recycling. I can't stress this enough, guys. I know there's a time, put it in the recycling bin, let them figure out what can and can't be recycled. Please don't do that. please just put in the things we know can properly to be recycled, so we won't have the contamination, and then we know that that batch got properly recycled. Things to never, ever, ever put into your containers, the plastic bags and wrappers. Don't do it. Styrofoam, don't do it. Greasy pizza boxes, food, don't put in the recycling bin, but you're going to be able to put that in the food waste bin pretty soon. And same with yard waste. And I think most people know this, but I just feel it's always important to reiterate the importance of not putting these types of things into the bin as much. Just don't do it. And then obviously reuse is always a great option for toys and clothing and shoes and tools. I mean, I know on a personal front, I've been really into the Buy Nothing Facebook group in my community, and I use that first as my first way of trying to get someone to reuse something as my first attempt. But obviously, there's obviously many other ways to get rid of things versus just tossing it into the garbage can. So just think about that on a regular basis. Is there another option before you put it into the trash? Next slide. I encourage you to check out this website. It's called recyclingsimplified.com. It's from Republic. Everything on this site can be used free of charge. You don't have to buy it, but it's really geared for the community. It's for teachers, it's for parents, it's really for anyone who wants to learn how to recycle. We have lots of activities that you can share with kids, lesson plans, videos. So for folks that really want to extend their reach out in the community, I recommend going to the site and grabbing what information is really interesting to you and use it as much as you want. I think the more people that are out there in the community talking about this stuff really is going to make an impact on us doing it correctly and really having an impact for Chula Vista. And then lastly, just wanted to say thank you for, on the last slide. Lastly, just want to thank you for the opportunity to present today. I had a great time. It was really nice to share what we're doing here with Republic in the city. And this flyer to the on the screen, I think is just a great example of what can and cannot be recycled, what can go into the food bin and yard waste bin. And I know these are going to be available to the public, but really take the time to start educating yourself. And then from there, how you can educate your family and friends on what can go in the bin. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And once again, thank you again for your time.
Hi, Risa. We do have a couple questions here from John. So the first one being, we've been composting some of our food waste at home for many years. Food waste we don't compost at home goes into our Republic green bin, which gets picked up once per week. How will this be different from putting food waste items into the green bin for weekly pickup?
It'll be basically the same. What you do is just put your food waste into the green bin, and then it'll go to the composting facility at Otay.
Yeah, and if I can add on to that as well, just answering your question, John, and you can see it on the image here. We do have seafood, meat, and bones that will be included in this program. And, for backyard composting, we don't recommend that. It can be broken down, of course, just like any other organic matter. But when you put that in a small pile at your home, you're really attracting the wrong type of organism, right? With backyard composting, we want to attract bacteria. When you put those items back there, you're going to start attracting house flies, rats, things like that, things you don't want in your backyard. And so we don't recommend you put that in there. So that's the first one. And then you can see there, food soiled paper. So a greasy cardboard box from a pizza box, any kind of napkins, all those things that we have on a daily basis will also be accepted in this program. So hopefully that answers your question there. The second question, also from John, let's say we've just finished a container of peanut butter. How well do we need to clean it out before putting it in the recycling bin?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. We had this conversation at my house earlier this week. I would recommend trying to scrape it out as much as you can. I mean, the less, how can I say it? I know sometimes it might take a little effort, but it doesn't have to be completely spotless, but certainly don't have chunks of peanut butter kind of on the sides of the jar. So if you can really either scoop it out and eat it, or like I said, just try to clean it as much as you can, that would be great. And the most important thing is as long as it's dry. A lot of times we don't want people to put, some people will rinse out their recyclables and then throw it into their recycle bin. And if it's wet, that in itself is not good either. It should definitely be dry. I just air dry it on my counter, and a couple hours later I throw it into my recycle bin. That's usually what I do.
Very good. And it looks like the next question, what is the plan to get the word out to Chula Vista?
So it's going to be a kind of a big push. We're going to pretty much start right after Labor Day. And I'm working with the City of Chula Vista's communications team right now. And so we're going to be developing the outreach effort, but there'll be stuff on social media. There will be articles and newsletters. We are going to be giving presentations out in the community. So if there's any organizations that you would like us to come out and talk to, we'd be happy to do so. We will certainly do online, virtual, or, I know we're getting to the point where we're going back into person. So we're happy to go back into person probably starting in September. But I think my point is that we're really willing to talk to all kinds of groups in Chula Vista so people know how it's going to work and really get people excited. But there'll be lots of different ways for folks to learn about what is how to participate and how the program will work. And then you will get some kind of notification about your bin. So, and when the service will actually go live. I don't have any dates yet, but just hang tight and we'll be getting stuff out shortly.
All right. Thank you, Risa. I think that's all the questions we have for now. So I do appreciate that.
Well, thank you again, and it's really been a pleasure.
Hello, this is Corey, a conservation specialist for the City of Chula Vista, and just wanted to add to this great information we're seeing about the food waste or composting. Some information about COVID-19 assistance. Not directly related, but we're putting this information out as broadly as we can. We're so happy to see the community come back from COVID-19 and see restrictions lifted and meetings get back to more normal type activity. But we know that there's a lot of Chula Vista residents that were really impacted by COVID-19 in one way or another. And there are assistance for those members to get back to their normal as well. You can either go to the website, chulavistaca.gov/tenant help, or by calling 619-271-1805. And there's also a QR code that you can scan on the line as well. If you're from outside of Chula Vista, you can still get COVID assistance at erapsandiego.org. So if you know anyone who might be able to take advantage of this, please share it with them, and hopefully we'll recover from the COVID faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. And we actually do have a few more questions, Risa, if you can hang in there and help us out with some of these. So let me see here. What happens if people don't comply with this new change? Is it different for residents versus businesses?
I probably can't answer that question definitively yet. I do know that over time Cal Recycle has talked about fines, but I don't envision that happening immediately. I think really for the first year or so, it's going to be about education and really trying to educate people on the importance of doing it and making it as easy as possible. I will say that from a business perspective, and multifamily, I forgot to mention earlier, we are going to be offering these services for multifamily units. So folks in apartments and condos will be able to do food recycling as well. I think more to be determined, but we can certainly share with the community what will happen for non-compliance. But I think at least for the beginning portion of the program, it's really just going to be about education and getting people the tools so they can do it.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. What about used cooking oil?
That's a good question. I would probably say, Victor, maybe you might have a little bit more information about used cooking oil than I do. I'm going to say that you probably would not put that into the compost, into the food recycling bin, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so definitely, we showed you guys what goes in or what will be going into the green container at home. There are some items that you definitely don't want to put in. So that would be the fog, fats, oils, and grease. You always want to leave those out of your green bin. And for cooking oil in particular, we do have a hazardous waste facility, a household hazardous waste facility that all residents can use located at 1800 Maxwell Road in Chula Vista, open Wednesdays and Saturdays between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. And if you live in a single family home, you can actually call Republic Services at 619-421-9400 to schedule a curbside pickup of your cooking oil. So that's an awesome program that we do have in Chula Vista for Chula Vista residents. So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I knew there was more to it, and I'm sorry I didn't know that.
Not a problem. We have so many great programs in Chula Vista, and so really not a problem. Next one, will there still be free compost giveaways a few times a year like currently happens within the city? And I think I can answer that one as well because my department, Environmental Services, does schedule them. So yes, we will still continue to have 3 compost giveaways per year. And if you're looking to see when the next one is, I don't have the date off the top of my head, but visit our website, www.chulavistaca.gov/clean, and you can find the information there. Let's see, any special plans to target schools to assist with education efforts?
Yes, thank you for that question. We just met with the Sweetwater School District just a couple weeks ago, and we're in the process of developing a partnership with them for the fall and moving forward. So we will be doing some education and outreach to the students and teachers and families. So yes, stay tuned, and you should probably be getting some materials later this year.
Thank you. And it looks like this is the final question. So, is there an estimate how much this will help lower the greenhouse gas emissions for the city?
I don't have that information in front of me. I am more than happy to get back to Victor and the team, and we can maybe share that in a newsletter story or some kind of communication once we have a general sense of how much food waste is collected, compost, what kind of greenhouse gas reductions we can have, and maybe that could be a metric that we can start tracking moving forward.
Thank you so much. And we did have an answer in the Q&A. The free compost giveaway is actually Saturday, August 28th, and I believe that goes from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So there you go. We did get that one answered. So thank you so much, Risa. I believe that is all the questions for now. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude our session. I want to say thank you so much to Risa for being here with us. It was an amazing presentation, a lot of great information, and definitely we will have that because it is being recorded, you will be able to go back and watch that. So here is a rundown of the next sessions coming up in our awesome summer sustainability session. July 15th, 4 p.m., Protecting Our Waterways starts with our storm drains. August 5th, 4 p.m., SB 1383, and that's Senate Bill 1383. How will the new organic waste law affect Chula Vista? August 19th, 12 p.m., we have energy benchmarking. September 2nd at 4 p.m., Recycling 101. Are you wish cycling or really recycling? And September 16th should be our final one for this series at 4 p.m., Chula Vista's Zero Waste Plan. And like I said before, All of our webinars have been recorded, all the past ones, so you'll be able to visit those at your own leisure at www.chulavistaca.gov/clean.